Delighted that you're all able to join us today, and we're also very pleased that everybody's so punctual. It's actually 1 minute early. Over the past 10 days or so, even over the past couple of weeks or so, we have been pleased to receive a large number of interview requests, which, due to the timing and Ambassador Pritchard's availability, we were not able to accommodate individually. And we are very glad that you could join this press briefing, and we certainly hope that this event will also adequately respond to the requests for individual interviews that we have received. As you know, Ambassador Pritchard and my colleague Nicole Finnemann, KEI's Director of Academic Affairs and Research, have recently returned from a trip to Pyongyang. Ambassador Pritchard is going to begin by talking a little about preparations for this trip, about the purpose of this trip, and also about the substance of this trip. And Nicole has prepared some pictures, some slides that she's going to present, and that are going to provide material as we talk a little bit about the substance of this trip to North Korea. Without further ado, Ambassador Pritchard.
Well, make sure that you can hear me, and what I want to do is try to do as completely as possible for a number of reasons. First of all, the timing as this turned out was so close to the trip that Special Representative Steve Bosworth was on. There's some speculation that there was a connection between that, and there's not. So I need to give you a little bit of background, and in doing so, tell you why I was there. This was my 10th trip to North Korea. Ms. Finnemann's second trip to North Korea. The last time that we were there was in April 2008. Now, let me start from the very beginning. I'm also the co-chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations Task Force on U.S. policy toward the Korean Peninsula. That's been ongoing for a number of months. This past April, I met in New York with the North Koreans, one of the North Koreans' UN mission representatives, Kim Young-gil, and talked to him then about the possibility of traveling to North Korea for the purpose of discussing with North Korean officials their attitudes about the U.S. and our allied approach to North Korea as it pertains to the work that I was doing on the Council on Foreign Relations. That's the first time I brought it up, April 2008. That was shortly after the North Koreans launched their satellite. We refined that desire to travel to North Korea, and in the summer we formulated a plan of key members of the Council on Foreign Relations, the two co-chairmen, which the other one is retired General John Trelawney, and the executive director, Scott Snyder, who's with the Asia Foundation, and perhaps another person from the council, to travel first to Seoul towards the end of October to talk with officials there. And I won't get into that today. That's not pertinent to what we're here today. But the intent was, because we would be in the region at that time, to also then travel to Pyongyang. It made sense, it was economical, etc. So when I made that request in the middle of the summer, before the North Koreans had issued their invitation to Steve Bosworth to travel to Pyongyang, the North Koreans came back and said, yes, that's fine. A little bit later, they called me and said, sorry, it's no longer convenient. We'd like for you to come in the latter part of November. This is their choosing, their timing. And again, before they had issued an invitation to Steve Bosworth. Now, the reason that they pushed that off was very practical from their part. And that is Ambassador Lee Gun, who is the Director General for American Affairs, had requested and received permission to travel to the United States at the end of October. So he would not be there, and he would be the counterpart that I would be talking with. So it was a practical decision on the North Koreans' part, one which was an inconvenience for those of us on the task force, but nonetheless we had to abide by that. The problem, though, quite frankly, was that in rescheduling it to the end of October, we run into U.S. Thanksgiving holidays, and we were unable to accommodate the schedule of General Tillelli, so he was not able to go with us on this rescheduled trip. So again, no connection with the Bosworth trip, no connection with the U.S. government. Is entirely for the purposes of two things. One, general information, because both Ms. Finnemann and I follow North Korea issues. It's reasonable periodically that we ought to go back and see what's going on. One, visual observation, and second, to talk to the people that are in charge. So that's what we had intended to do. The trip itself was scheduled from the 21st of November through the 24th. Very short trip. It has some problems, some practical problems, in that the 21st is a Saturday. Sunday, the North Koreans are not going to be sitting down and talking to you. It's their one day off. So we essentially had one full day of potential activities in North Korea. What I'll do now is just to give you kind of a laundry list of the things that we did, and then I want to go into the substance of the discussions, and there are only two areas. First, when we arrived, we had an informal dinner hosted by the North Koreans, their Department of American Affairs. One of the directors, one of the directors hosted that dinner. The following evening, we did some touring of different areas outside of Pyongyang, and then had dinner with the British ambassador, plural, and that is the British ambassador Peter Hughes to Pyongyang was there. He hosted the dinner. He had with him visiting from Seoul the British ambassador to Seoul, Martin Hudell. And also with them was their equivalent of Assistant Secretary for Asia, Scott Whiteman, along with their Deputy Chief of Mission, Paul Scullion. So we had dinner with them on Sunday evening, got a British point of view of what was going on, told them what we intended to do, and that capped our Sunday, kind of the down day. Our Monday really was, as I say, our main day. And that was an initial meeting with Ambassador Lee Gun at the Foreign Ministry. It lasted about 2.5 hours, followed by lunch. Then we did a couple of other things to include a visit to one of the directors within the Ministry of Trade, a man named Hyun Chol, whom Ms. Finnemann and I had met 18, 20 months earlier in our first collective trip to North Korea. We didn't ask for that, but it's important for you to know that the North Koreans put it on that agenda, and it's part of some of the substance that I want to get into for that. We also visited, at their request, the 326 electric wire factory. And this is a unit that is the sole factory in North Korea that produces both electrical wire, communications wire, and I guess steel cables as well to support that purpose. We could talk about that. There's some interesting observations, but probably not germane to what you're interested in. And then a few other things, concluding with another 2-hour dinner with Ambassador Lee Gun. All told, we spent about 4.5 hours with Ambassador Lee Gun. We were told that we were unable to meet with Vice Minister Kim Gae-kwan because he was in the hospital recovering from a severe cold. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that was the information that we had. So let me get into some of the substance of what we talked about, and then we want to give you some of the impressions of what we saw, and the purpose of that is to support some of the conclusions that we've drawn, and then I'm happy to take any questions you may have. With Ambassador Lee Gun, he essentially started with about a 30-minute opening in which he went through a laundry list of where we were in terms of U.S. DPRK relations. I need to tell you from the very beginning, as I've emphasized, that we've